Yo YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy Remix here, bringing you guys another video today. What I've got for you is a gameplay of Domination on Strike Zone, which is likely my third favorite map of all time in any Call of Duty, only behind Hijack from Black Ops 2 and Hard Hat from MW3. Now the reason I'm bringing you this video today is there was a lot of talk this past week about the next Call of Duty title and how it's rumored to be called Bloodlines. Now, this kind of upset me a little bit because I loved Call of Duty Ghosts. I would not mind in any capacity to see a Call of Duty Ghosts 2. This is the first Call of Duty that I ever played the campaign all the way through, and I absolutely loved it. Multiplayer was phenomenal. Now, a couple things I wanted to touch on in today's video is the things that Call of Duty Ghosts brought to the game. Some good, some not so good, but overall I think it deserves to have a sequel. Now, the first thing I want to touch on, let's not forget contextual lean. It was kind of upsetting for players like me that like to run around and get in people's faces because it took corner camping to a whole new level. However, that added a whole new dynamic to the game. I never really used it all that much myself, but I love the fact that they give people that don't play the game as much something that may level the playing field just a bit. The second thing I wanted to touch on is the slide. They came in and developed a movement mechanic that was unique. Now, maybe they got their ideas from the Dolphin Dive from Black Ops 2, but I love the fact that while I'm sliding, I could also fire my weapon. If you had to get to cover, you could do so without your head staying at the same level. Maybe you can avoid a few headshots that way. I know it saved me from some fire at some point, and I'm certain it saved some of you sometimes. The third thing that I was really excited that Ghost brought to the table that you didn't see prior was neutrality of a flag on Domination. Domination has always been one of my favorite game types. I think it's one of the favorites in the community as well. So you never had to capture a flag entirely if you wanted to gain some ground in a game. You know, you could stay on it for 5 seconds by yourself, which is entirely doable. And then you could kind of work your team back into the game almost solo. Now, in other Call of Duties and now in Black Ops 3, you can't do that. It's impossible for you single-handedly to really bring your team back into the game because you have to sit on the flag for so long to get all the way into your possession. Something else I really liked about it, and it was only on a couple maps and really only stood out one map competitively, was I believe they called it the dynamic map elements. So for instance, on Octane, you could blow up the gas station and have it change the cover that you had on that side of the map. My favorite was on Freight, how you could open and close the doors. Now, I don't know if you guys follow competitive Call of Duty or not, but that was a big strategy when you're playing game modes like Blitz and certainly S&D. You had 4 doors that you could open and close, 1 on one side of the map and 3 on the other. I think it was a really neat addition to the game. This one is the biggest though, and my favorite thing that came out of Call of Duty Ghosts by far was the Cranked game mode. Cranked was my absolute favorite. Remember, I'm a run and gun type of player. I loved getting the kill and all of a sudden having all my quickness perks immediately. It was awesome, and you can't ever say that somebody had an advantage because you could have gained all those perks at any point in that game as well if you only got a kill. Now, it didn't help that I was running around 100 miles an hour. There are a couple more things I'm not going to go into deep here. You know, Riley, I thought was a great addition. I thought it was a great score streak. I thought the Oracle was an awesome score streak as well. It was kind of the predecessor to Vision Pulse, you know, except this time you had to select it as a score streak, which, in my opinion, I think most of these specialist abilities and weapons should be score streaks anyway, but that's conversation for another day. Before I talk about what wasn't so great about Call of Duty Ghosts, or at least in the eyes of the general community, because I loved everything about it and I lived with every single fault that it had. Before we get into that, I just wanted to remind everyone, this was the first time that a developer had to produce this game on 5 different pieces of hardware. You had PC, you had the PS3, the Xbox 360, and then you had the next gen Xbox One and PS4. I don't know exactly how much extra work that was, but you can bet that it's at least 1.5 times your original workload. I do some work in creative media, and sometimes if I do something as a template for a client and they like bits and pieces of it, but they want bits and pieces of it changed, it's much easier for me to go back and scrap the whole thing and rebuild it than it is for me to try to tinker the current project and to get it to fit their needs and for what it was they were looking. So I don't know how Ghost went from one generation of the consoles to the next. I bet you that's why we had a lot of holes in the game. Now, let's touch on things that weren't done so well in the game. First of all, you had the connection issues. There weren't always connection issues, but when they were really bad. It wasn't a consistent problem, but when the inconsistency came, it was magnified tenfold. Like, you could hardly get off a shot if the connection wasn't quite right. The next thing was kind of iffy also, was the hit registration seemed to be a little off as well. But again, we all had to play it. It was the same for everybody, so we all had to live with it. There were times where you got away with it, and there were times that you were on the receiving end. So, you know, although it's not ideal, I think it's fair to say that we all did just fine with it. You can't blame whether someone was so great on the game or someone did so poorly on the game on the fact that the hit registration was a bit wonky. There was one big thing that stood out to me as just odd. So you have COD Champs, the biggest Call of Duty event each and every year. There's $1 million prize pool on the line here. And during that event, in competitive game types, namely Search and Destroy, you still had things happening like the bomb glitch. How does that happen that deep into the game? You know, this isn't something that happened overnight. It's been happening the whole time, and it just was never addressed. Again, I kind of think that has something to do with the fact that your team was spread so thin because you had to develop this game on 5 different pieces of hardware. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm not trying to let them off the hook and not hold them accountable. I'm just asking for everyone to take a deep breath and think this through. Also, there were many spawn issues in game types such as Blitz, where I remember one time I saw, I think it was TP, that actually spawned on the opposing team's Blitz goal. Now, Blitz was a game mode that I absolutely loved. I think it was awesome. It brought a whole new thought to strategy to the game, and I thought it was really cool. I was kind of sad to see it go. But that's something, again, that took forever, along with CTF had some spawn issues. So, this far along in the game, they clearly had some issues. They weren't really addressed in a timely manner. So I understand how many people didn't think that this game warranted a sequel. However, I disagree. I see how you could think that. I think overall the game was great. I think if we tell them, I think if we would have Infinity Ward only produce this game for the next-gen consoles and PC, and you allow another smaller studio to take the code and to adapt it for the last-gen Xbox 360 and PS3, if they're even going to offer that, that should be the way it should be done. Give them a chance to have a full 3 years on a single generation of consoles and let them deliver. Infinity Ward's always delivered in the past. We have no reason to believe that they won't now. Alright, I think that about covers everything that came to mind immediately. I mean, there's so much more that I think Ghost brought to the game that wasn't highlighted, but I'm going to leave that stuff because the list just goes on, and of course the negatives, you know, can go on a little longer as well. I just think that Ghost did not get a fair shake. I think they deserve an opportunity. You know, being Infinity Ward, and like I said, they always come through. Every single one of the Infinity Ward games that I've ever played, I've absolutely fallen in love with, and I think most of the community has as well, barring Ghosts. We'll see here in a couple months what comes up. Is it going to be Bloodlines? Is it going to be Ghost 2? Or is it going to be something entirely different? I don't know. Thank you guys for sticking around. I know this is probably one of my longest commentaries ever, but there was just so much information that I just had to get off my mind, get off my chest, and hope that you guys, you know, kind of give this a chance. So Ghost 2 comes out, make sure you guys go pick it up, show them some love, because you know it's going to be good. Just to be clear here, this is a brand new recording. This was the one and only game of Ghost I played about 2 nights ago. Only game of Ghost I played in about, what, a year and a half? You know, nearly 2 years. It's been a while. That's going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like it, like it. If you love it, subscribe. If you've got something to say, let me know in the comments below. As always, this has been your boy Remix. Peace out.